Hello and happy Tuesday. You are live with Sandra at It's All About Choices, where every Tuesday I have the pleasure of dishing out your weekly dose of nutrition, wellness news for the mind, body, and the soul. And I hope that you all had a wonderful, productive, educational 3-day weekend. We are just coming off of MLK Day. So I hope that everybody was able to partake and appreciate the reason why we honor that holiday. And so thank you for tuning in live with me today on this Tuesday. And if you are listening to the replay, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to tune in with me. And give me 1 second while I get my windows ready. You guys know I love engagement. So I want to make sure that I'm able to see your comments and see your posts. So let me get my other window set up and then we will rock and roll and get into this. Let's see here. One more window to go. Looking for the area where I would see comments. Let's see here. Here we go. Here. All right, one down, and we make sure this one's going. There are like two different ways to do this in two different settings. All right, so thank you for that moment for me to get set up real quick. Technical, formalities here. And so we are talking about in 2023 creating a lifestyle of self-care. And so today, and it's all about resetting and recalibrating. Last month was hitting the reset button, or this month is really hitting the reset button. That's what we tend to do in January, right? And so today we're going to talk about a little bit about me, okay? I'm going to talk about how a setback of high blood pressure and weight loss led to my comeback as a registered dietitian. So today I am up close, personal, candid, no chaser, and to the point about my personal health journey. And my personal health journey is filled with a myriad of emotions, frustration, disappointment, shame, anger, and more importantly, it was very life-changing for me. So I know that's relatable for a lot of people. I went through a period of anger and disappointment for having to take medications to control my blood pressure, despite my efforts of changing how I ate, losing weight, etc. And so one of my God-given purposes is to prevent others from having to go through the same mistakes that I made. And the truth of the matter is we don't know what we don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know at that time about nutrition, about weight loss, about disease prevention, management, and I wasted many years trying to figure it out on my own. And so my mission, my big purpose, my big why I do what I do is to show people a whole new way of living and to share the joy about not having to suffer or feel stuck in their present health condition or their present weight. Okay, so simply put, I'm a firm believer that food is medicine and it 100% impacts our quality of life. Meaning, do you have enough energy to get through the day? Are you living pain free? Are you happy? Are you just happy? It affects our quantity of life, how long we stay on this earth, and how graceful and independently we age. And so you want to have the ability to walk around, perform activities of daily life without a whole lot of assistance, okay? And so full transparency, my struggles, they are no different from yours. I must practice what I preach to keep my own weight in check. And I get off track just like everybody else gets off track, and I must reset. I must recalibrate. I must hit that reset button just like you do. And so my greatest joy is to give people solutions about what is possible for their weight, their health, their wellness, and the priceless results are that people are gaining back their health. They're gaining back their lives one day at a time until they reach their goals. And that's really what it's all about. We only have one chance at this life thing, right? So we want to make the most of it. And so as you are chiming in, as you're tuning in, please say hello to me. Tell me where you're tuning in from and what resonated with you most. Okay. All three are important. All three: quality of life, quantity of life, aging gracefully and independently. They're all very important. Well, I'm curious, which one resonates with you the most? Okay. And please share. Just give me a little snippet of which one resonates with you the most. And honestly, it truly does break my heart when I hear people who don't do the things that they enjoy doing because they feel subconscious about their weight or how they look, or they're just in too much pain. or they're just exhausted. And so that's no way to live, right? That's no way to live, especially if we're young. It's just no way to live. So trust me when I say that many of the situations that we struggle with on a regular basis are very preventable. Everything is not linked to genetics or the fact that we're getting older. Okay. So our destiny is not always shaped by our family history. And I truly believe that the sooner we take action then of our own health, then the using safe and effective long-term solutions. That's important. The earlier we take that action in life and make our health a priority, the less sick we are. Okay. The less sick we are, the less things that we have to deal with. And so for those who do not know me, I'm Sandra Goldtree. I am a registered dietitian. I'm also certified as a personal trainer, and I'm your accountability partner. Okay. And I teach adults the necessary tools, techniques, to break weight loss plateaus, to move towards a healthier relationship with food, and to effectively control your food cravings. And so it's all about building a lifestyle of healthy habits that last for a lifetime. Nothing that's a quick fix, short term. We want things that'll last and handle the ebbs and flows of life. Okay. And we want to do this in a fun, we want to do this in a realistic way. And so for 2022, you remember my motto was breaking those food strongholds. Well, we're going to continue on that because many of us have food strongholds that hold us back with our health, with our weight, with life. And then for 2023, we want to create a lifestyle of self-care. Okay, so that's what it is all about. And so I'm just going to chime through here just to make sure I'm not missing anything. And as I'm going through this, feel free to make comments, feel free to ask questions. I love for this to serve as an interactive and engaging platform. Okay, whether I'm talking about specific topics or today the topic happens to be myself, but I still would love for you all to engage. And so we are all about resetting, recalibrating, creating that lifestyle of change in 2023. We're going to talk about my personal story, how the setback of high blood pressure and weight loss led to my comeback as a registered dietitian. And so last week I was absent from this platform. I was doing my 3-day challenge, Crush Your Sugar Cravings, and 70 people registered. I had many, many engaging for those 3 days and testimonials that came out of that. People were sleeping better, feeling better, having more energy in just 3 days. So that was just some of the information and feedback that I received. And so this shows you just how the power of food has on the body when it's planned, when it's appropriate. Okay, no dieting through this challenge. We didn't do any dieting. You ate a variety of cuisines, a variety with that cross all the food groups. So we got lots of nutrients in, and it was all about getting whole foods in and enjoying a variety of flavors. Okay, and so there's still time to listen to the replays of all that. So if you missed it live, you still have an opportunity to listen to the replays. And the buzz has been spreading about my upcoming 30-day nutrition, weight loss, and total body wellness program called Body Reboot Blueprint. And so stay tuned. And so you still have a chance to take advantage of some of my special events that I have going on this time of the year. And so just in case, here is a sneak peek of what Body Reboot is. And I'm going to put this information in the chat. Hopefully it will reach you all. Still trying to get used to the way Facebook looks. As soon as I get used to it, they're going to change it again, I'm sure. All righty. So let me get back to the topic at hand. And so we are in the days, right, where there is a lot of nutrition information that's readily available to us. Okay, it's at our fingertips, whether it's the internet, social media, TV, etc. And so some of it's credible, some of it's evidence-based, some of it's safe and effective to follow. But unfortunately, though, a lot of the information is misguided, is misrepresented, it is conflicting, and it leads to frustration and sometimes unhealthy side effects. Okay, and so such a time as this is the reason why I want to open up and share my personal journey and of how a setback, I kind of call it a setback comeback story. But I want to share 3 points. Okay, I'm gonna share 3 points, and one was my struggle with high blood pressure and denial about losing weight. So I'll go a little deeper with all of that than I usually will do, because fad dieting and restricting carbs, and whether it's calories, carbs, sugar, they are generally the first action that people take to address either losing weight or some kind of medical condition. And it's really been on my heart to open up and to speak out transparently about this because it's not always the best thing to do. And then my second point, I'll talk about the trigger that led me to finally get professional help and to finally lose the weight. And then my third point is how hypertension and losing weight, it not only saved my life, but it also changed the direction of my life as well as my career. And so if anybody here has high blood pressure or that's an official diagnosis, or maybe you have been told by your doctor that your blood pressure is elevated, please stay. So sometimes you hear prehypertension, or sometimes a doctor will just say elevated. But please share if you're willing to share if you have are kind of going through that process and your doctor is either giving you the warning or you're on meds for it now currently. Okay. And so my struggle and my denial. And so every person has various pain points, right? And most people, especially women, they have a weight loss story or stories, right? And so my wake up call started in my early 30s. And during this time, I was living my best life. So I thought, and I went to the doctor regularly. And so this particular visit, though, my blood pressure was beginning to elevate more and more and more to the point that now the doctor is really raising this to my attention. And I have a family history, including my mother, my grandmother, of having high blood pressure. And so I was advised to purchase a blood pressure monitor and to begin tracking it at home on a regular basis. And so my blood pressure readings were consistently in that prehypertension or elevated range, both at home and in doctor's visits. So they're pretty close. So I couldn't really blame it on the white coat syndrome. And then another year passes, my blood pressure is in and out of normal range, and it will hit the pre-hypertensive range, and it will well into the hypertensive range at times. And that's like one high 40s, high 150s, over 90s, 100s. It would get that high on occasions. And so my doctor tagged me with prehypertension. He advised me to lose 25 pounds, and to reduce my salt intake. And so I was handed this sheet of paper. This is before I was a dietitian. So he handed me this sheet of paper with this list of foods to avoid that were high in salt. And I will follow up in 3 months. At that time, a reassessment is done to determine if I was going to start medications. And with medications comes the official diagnosis. Okay. And so if you've ever left the doctor's office unsure or afraid, just post I have. And if you're comfortable and would like to share your story where you kind of felt hopeless and afraid about some news, then let me know. And so this time it was around 2020, well, 2002, so the early 2000s. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. So I was walking to my car. I was in disbelief because this was the first time, honestly, that I had really received unfavorable news from the doctor. Usually my doctor's appointments are good. And I was out without a plan. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I did not want to get on medications. And that I didn't want. I wanted to break the family cycle. And worse, I didn't know what to do next. I said to myself, well, how in the world am I going to lose 20 to 25 pounds? And I was scared, in complete denial because my weight my weight hadn't been an issue. And so the truth of the matter, though, my weight at that visit, I remember my eyes got big because I had gained about 15 pounds since the last time I went to the doctor, since it was a year. And it creeped up on me. It was unnoticed. You don't pay attention, right? You don't pay attention. So it was a slow and it was a gradual weight gain. And on top of that, I was exercising every day. So I got testimony that you can't outwork out a bad diet. You still gain weight. And despite constant reminders from my doctor that I was having a very difficult time accepting the fact that I was overworking my heart, I'm getting told I'm placing myself at risk for diabetes and all these things and kidney failure. And I didn't do anything about it for about a year. I mean, I was in denial. I mean, I tried to do some things, but I really didn't take it seriously. Okay. And just post relate if you can relate. And so I did what most people do today when you get unfavorable news from the doctor. And back then it was a World Wide Web. So I self-educated myself. I did a search. At the time, I was still in the IT field. So I was a computer programmer. And so I'm looking for credible information. I'm looking for what do I need to do to fix this problem. And that led me to some various eating patterns, the DASH eating pattern, which is geared towards stopping hypertension. It focused on eating whole foods and how to do that, and it had some recipes and some meal plans. And so I tried them and I did them, and it really was an eye opener for me, because that's when I learned how nutrient poor, how high in salt I was actually eating, even though I wasn't doing the obvious. I wasn't shaking salt on my food. I wasn't eating frozen meals. I wasn't eating out a lot. But the things that I was doing, I needed much improvement on. So again, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so for 3 months, I faithfully followed these different meals and this plan, and I cleaned up things quite a bit. And I saw some results. I felt better. I had more energy, so I did see that. And but the not so good news is my blood pressure was still inconsistent. And so I was still having the high readings, and the weight didn't change. So my weight was, I stopped the gain. I did that, but I did not lose. So I was really addressing only half of the equation. And so because I know that I had made some improvements, but why is it not working? Why is it not working? And so I continue to try to eat healthier and try to figure things out and change things for another year. And the doctor is continually warning me about what I'm doing to my body, and by prolonging this and by prolonging this and not getting on medications, and the work that I'm putting on my heart. And at the same time, I was also trying to address it through lifestyle change. They saw that I was trying to address it through lifestyle change, so they kind of let me continue to try. And at this point, I'm feeling nervous. I started seeing a nephrologist because I'm concerned. Am I damaging my kidneys and I don't know it? And so I start to visit a nephrologist just so I can kind of have that checks and balance to make sure everything was okay. And then for me, the trigger, the trigger that led me to get help. Okay, so at that time I was not putting any undue harm on my kidneys, but I visited a dialysis center. And I don't know if you've ever been to a dialysis center, but that is when people have full kidney failure. So they have to go to this center 3 days a week, hooked up to a machine for about 3 hours to flush the toxins out of their body, et cetera, because their kidneys are no longer working. The kidneys are not able to do that for them. And I'm in my 30s, so this terrified me. I asked questions. So they had a dialysis dietitian who specializes in this, and I was like, well, what leads to this? What causes this? And in many cases, unless it's congenital, in many cases it's uncontrolled hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes over a period of years. Now, this is nothing that happens overnight. This is generally decades. So think about people that we may know, family members may know. I know I have them in my family where they eat what they want to eat, they do what they want to do, they take their pill, they take their insulin, and then everything is great, right? Not necessarily. Unfortunately, not necessarily. So this is what really shook me up. And that's when I realized that I was being stubborn, that I'm trying to fix myself. And I'm like, this is where my future is if I continue doing what I'm doing. And so, and in my mind, a part of me is like, well, Sandra, you know better than this. You know better than this. And so that's when I finally sought help. That's when I worked with a dietitian. This is really my first exposure to working with a dietitian. And based on her direction, she made some additional tweaks to what I was doing, because there were some dots that I just couldn't connect. So it wasn't like everything I was doing was incorrect, but there were still some key pieces that was missing, that was stopping me from losing the weight that I needed to lose in order to help take that pressure off of my heart as well. So within 3 months, or around 3 months, the 20 pounds that I've been trying to lose for 3 years, so 3 years has passed, I lost that in 3 months. Okay. And not just losing that weight, but she taught me strategies and taught me ways to keep it off, because that's the biggest one of the problems that people have. They lose the weight, but they don't know how to keep it off. So she taught me how to keep it off because I was single back then. I was not a mother back then, so I had a whole different world back then. And so we're talking the early 2000s that all this took place. And so that is what the blessing is, and that is what the difference is. So I go to the doctor. I'm excited. I've lost this weight, but my blood pressure, guess what? Is still high. Okay, it's still high. And so at this point, I'm feeling defeated, and I'm feeling frustrated. I'm stressed out. I'm stressed out at this point because it's not working for me, and I realized that I was being counterproductive, and that I was doing more damage at this point than good. And so I threw in the towel. I threw in the towel because I saw dialysis, and I was like, Sandra, this is something that you can prevent. Even though I'm still angry about it. So I get the diagnosis, and the diagnosis is essential hypertension, which is no known cause. And and so I'm trialed with different medications, and I consider this a setback. I consider this because I did what they said, right? I lost the weight. It took me 3 years, lost the weight. I changed my eating habits, and it still didn't work for me. Now, I will say that I'm an anomaly, okay? Because most people can lose 5% of their weight, and their blood pressure is great. So we know that there was something deeper going on with me. And I went to visit a cardiologist. So I'm still trying to find answers. I'm analytical. I'm still trying to find answers. I went to a cardiologist because I'm like, well, what is it? And he's looking at me, he's looking at my labs, and he's shaking, he's scratching his head. He's like, well, I don't know, just on paper, we shouldn't have this conversation. This should not happen to you. And so at that time, more invasive testing was recommended in order to really find out why my blood pressure was at that state. So that particular cardiologist advised against it, said it wasn't worth it because of my age, etc. And so I let it go. I let it go. Fast forwarding to now, I will say that I went back to a nephrologist, just because I'm older now. I mean, we're almost 20 years later, so I'm older now. And this nephrologist has a different perspective. So I am going through the process of getting labs done. I'm going to get an ultrasound on my kidneys, and as well as other urinalysis and things like that, because he still feels that I should not have the issue that I have with my blood pressure. And so because of the lifestyle that I live, he sees the weight's not an issue. He can tell that I exercise, etc. And so he said it might just be some marker that we need to address. And so I'm excited because I'm getting labs drawn that I've never had drawn before, and I hope to have some answers. Okay. So going back to my situation, that finding this information out really changed the trajectory of my life. And so after I went through my frustration, I realized, and God spoke to me and said, well, Sandra, had you not made these changes in your eating habits and lose the weight or get a control of your weight, because my weight was creeping up, that I would have a lot more health problems than what I was experiencing at that time. And that resonated with me because I learned my vitamin D levels were severely low. And so I was just getting ready to really come into a lot of health problems at such a young age that, had the blood pressure not been so prevalent, I would not have ever caught. And so that's when I started to change my perspective on my diagnosis. And I didn't look at it as a setback anymore. I looked at it as something that actually saved my life. It changed my life. And I'm praying that it's testimony for other people, because I would not have made as many changes as I made so early in my life had this not affected me. And so my comeback as a dietitian. So this led me to go back to school. Okay, so I went back to school after 15 years of being out of school, 18 years in my profession that I was in, to earn a second bachelor's. And I did that because I wanted to get properly trained. I wanted to get credentialed so that I can help other people ditch that fear around food and or following misguided information, or waste time like I did. That leads to other health issues that we don't even think about. Okay. So, and my aha moment for me during those 3 years, that journey I call it a journey, but it was 3 years that I wasted, but that needed to happen in order for me to come to this place, is I will never forget how I felt when I walked out of that doctor's office and not having a plan, not telling me really what to do. They hand me this sheet of paper, but how do you do it? How do you lose the weight? How do you change it? How do you go through the process of changing behaviors? That was the struggle. I didn't know how to do that at the time. And then witnessing other people follow or restrict or do things that is not going to address the problem. And then they get frustrated when it doesn't address the problem or the problem becomes worse. And so that is probably a couple of the biggest aha moments for me, that my purpose, God showed me a new way and a new purpose to try to prevent that from as many people as possible. Okay. And so one thing I want to ask you, changes that you've made. If you're somebody here who has blood pressure, high blood pressure, or even elevated, and you're trying to work on it, what are some of the things that you are done or doing in order to get it under control? What are you eating out less? Are you eating more whole foods? What are some of the things that you're doing? But I will implore you, though, you get professional help, because it's more than just cutting out sodium rich foods. That's the obvious, but it's a lot more involved than that. Okay. And before getting into my life now, I want to share some exciting news about my upcoming 30-day group program, Body Reboot Blueprints. And if you are struggling with your weights, then I want to ask you something. Has your weight reached that plateau? Do you feel like you've tried every diet under the sun without real success? Or are you unsure of what to eat or how to eat in order that works for you? Okay. And that's what this is all about, because many people are tired of looking for ways to sleep better, to have that energy, to end that confusion about what to eat. And they want more accountability. They want a community support to help them figure this thing out. Okay. And I'm here to tell you, I wasted time. So hopefully, a new way of doing things. And it's all about having a realistic plan, something that's sustainable, something that goes beyond the 30 days, something that you can continue to do after the 30 days. And so I invite you to check it out. Check out Body Reboot Blueprint. And it starts on January 26th. So you have plenty of time to things to ramp up. We got the early bird going on, so take advantage of that. And here's a quick overview of how it's organized. And so you're going to have 4 live trainings, 4 weekly sessions where we are live. We're going to do interactive activities that's going to motivate you and to help give you that accountability that you're looking for. It's a safe environment, and it's an opportunity for you to motivate others and for others to motivate you. And it's about breaking some food strong Okay, it looks like things are still up. I tell you, boy, when technology works is great, but when it doesn't, it doesn't. So those of you who stayed on with me, I had some kind of way my internet went down, so I had to reboot and everything. And so I was saying that to wait to grab your spot. The first 7 people, you will actually get a one-on-one session with me to use during the group program, and this way, this will maximize your results. And during our talk, we will really get more a crystal clear path of your weight loss goals as well as your nutrition path that you should take. And we'll talk about maybe some unhidden obstacles that's been holding you back. And you will have tangible next steps. So, whatever we discuss and talk about, we will directly apply that to where we are at in our group program to help move you along even farther. And so, this one of a kind program is you register. And like I said, I'm excited about it. We're going to start on the 26th. And if you have any questions or any comments, definitely let me know, and I will address those. And so let me get back to let me talk about a few testimonials from Body Reboot from past participants as well. I just want to get the right banner for where I'm at. And so some of the testimonials were they were able to get control over their cravings and emotional eating. They were able to increase their energy levels without depending on caffeine or sugar. They slept better, had more quality sleep. They enjoyed satisfying meals and snacks. You will get 4 weeks of meal plans and recipes. And so all that's laid out for you in addition to the training. Their blood pressure lowered, their fasting blood sugar levels lowered as well. And then also they had sustainable weight loss. It got them going on a weight loss path. And so ideally, we want to see you losing some weight every week. Okay. And so check it out. And like I said, any questions, let me know. And so where am I now? My life now. And so I have maintained the law since 2024. I have my own checks and balances of things that I need to do because a lot has happened since 2004. Got married, had a child, and just life, right? Just life, changing careers, etc. And so I have to stay intentional, just like everybody else. But I do and truly believe that food is medicine, even though we know that what's going on with me is a lot deeper. It may be genetics, it may be just something with my body and the way my systems are working that handles blood pressure. But I'm excited that I'm going to finally find out after all of these years. And so I also believe in eating real food. I love having energy. I have a son, and so I'm able to keep up with him and do all the things that he enjoys doing. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do that. Okay. And my blood pressure is under control, thankfully. Now I have to keep my weight in check. So when my weight creeps up, 5 pounds or so, I notice my blood pressure goes up as well. So I have to reel it back in because I don't want to play games with that. And by the grace of God, I'm doing well. Okay. And so, but like I said, I have to keep my sleep in check, keep my weight in check. I have to keep my stress in check, my overwhelm in check, just like everybody else does. Okay. And so the big takeaway from all of this is I had to get out of my head and I had to accept the fact that I needed help. Okay. And I've made changes over the past 19, 20 years. I've made changes. I've made adjustments. I work daily on creating my lifestyle of self-care to make sure that I don't lose myself in being a wife and being a mother and everything else that I'm involved in. And so I have to fine tune. Everything has to get fine tuned. And every now and then I have to just step back and say, okay, Sandra, you gotta reevaluate because this is you got too much going on and you can't keep up. You can't keep up. And so it's I'm not perfect, right? So I am not perfect. I don't get it all right all the time, but just know that I don't give up. So it's all about matter of not giving up, and the fact that I had those nuggets that were taught to me when I did lose the weight. You find yourself going back to that stuff. You find yourself going back to that stuff as to get yourself back on track. Okay, so the key is knowing how to get back on track. Okay, and so remember to take advantage of the early bird special and to grab your spot. As soon as you grab your spot, you are in there, and you're going to look forward to having access. And I'm just making sure that I'm not missing any questions, but you'll have access to your meal plans, and you'll have access to your private group, and it's outside of Facebook. So you don't need to have access to Facebook in order to do this. And so I thank you for tuning in. I encourage you to invite a friend or family member. It's always good to have an accountability partner that you know firsthand and that you can bounce things off with, in addition to myself. And so I thank you for tuning in. And next week, we will continue on resetting and recalibrating. And we are going to talk about how your mojo affects your sugar cravings. Okay, so we're going to talk about some different things next week. Okay, honestly, I might change the topic next week. So I'm going to leave that to be determined. So stay tuned for me next week. And I thank you for listening. And I pray that I said something that will make a difference in your life. Be blessed. Bye-bye.